Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, ich darf Sie ganz herzlich begrüßen zu den heutigen Pressestatements nach dem virtuellen Slavkov-Treffen mit Europaministerin Karoline Edtstadler, dem tschechischen Außenminister Tomáš Petříček und dem slowakischen Außenminister Korčok.
Sind Sie zugeschaltet? Ja. Einen schönen Vormittag von meiner Seite. Jetzt sehe ich nur den slowakischen Außenminister. Ist der tschechische Außenminister auch zugeschaltet?
Ja, ich höre.
So, also eine hybride Pressekonferenz. Ich darf Sie ganz herzlich begrüßen von meiner Seite. Es hat heute das Ministertreffen im Slavkov-Format stattgefunden. Ich freue mich ganz besonders über den engen Austausch mit der Tschechischen Republik und der Slowakei. Es ist ganz wesentlich, dass wir eng zusammenarbeiten. Das hat sich schon am Beginn der Krise als sehr wirkungsvoll und gut herausgestellt. Und wie sich jetzt auch zeigt, insbesondere wenn wir in die Slowakei schauen, dann kann auch Österreich von anderen Staaten lernen. Umgekehrt haben wir aber auch, glaube ich, während der Krise sehr viel Wissen hier ausgetauscht und auch weitergegeben. I will now switch into English because we had this conversation during the last nearly 2 hours in English, and I would like to welcome Tomáš Petříček from the Czech Republic and Korčok once again from Slovakia. It is always a pleasure to have this exchange, and there is a lot to discuss. We are still in the middle of a crisis, and of course you can't hold a meeting in times like that without talking about the COVID-19 situation in the several countries, in our neighboring countries. From the very beginning of this crisis, I was in a very intensive contact with our neighboring countries, especially with these two in the Slavkov format, and we also did it today. We talked about our priorities, and the priority of all our countries is, of course, to prevent the collapse of the healthcare system and to find more coordination, especially on the European level, and it shows also that it is important to be coordinated within our 3 countries in total. So we also put a common approach on the European Union level. We want to see more coordination regarding quarantine times, and of course we will have the best solutions for our citizens which are not used to have borders between the countries, and therefore it's important to discuss this from time to time, what we did very intensively today. I'm a bit worried because I can't see the colleague from the Czech Republic. Maybe we can check again if Tomáš is also in this video conference. Otherwise, he can't hear what I have already said, and he can't say if he's okay with that. Another topic, of course, was the fight against terrorism. First of all, I would like to thank you both again for the support, for your solidarity, which was expressed after this terrible attack on the 2nd of November 2020. We are all of the same opinion. It's not an Austrian problem, it's a European problem. And especially our neighboring countries, I may say that also in your name, were shocked that this happened in Vienna. And now we see that there is a window of opportunity to fight in a better coordinated way against terrorism in Europe. It was not an attack on Austria, it was an attack on our European core values, and we have to do our utmost and strengthen our forces to defend our open and democratic societies and our common European values. We need a better protection of external borders. We have to continue the exchange of information and cooperation. We have to prevent extremism in the internet, and for that we do have the need to have more action at the European level, for example, regarding the DSA, but also regarding content terrorist online. You all know that we already made a package, a national package, we presented last week. I also told my colleagues what we plan here in Austria, and we will go shoulder on shoulder next to each other in this fight at the European level. There's a lot more to say regarding the details, but as I would like to hand over then to my colleagues, we can also come back to more details in this regard also. There was also on our agenda to discuss the question of migration, the discussion of rule of law and the multi-annual financial framework and the conditionality, and of course something which I mentioned again because it's really something which is lying on my heart, the Conference on the Future of Europe. I think we do have the need to bring things forward. We do have the responsibility to secure the life of the citizens in Europe, to have this money, which was already concluded in July, also ready for the states, for the member states who were hit most by the crisis. But on the other hand, we have the need to handle taxpayers' money diligently. And that's why we all are advocating for this conditionality between the MFF and the rule of law. I do hope that things are going forward in the next days, that we can see good results. And to come to the topic of the migration again, we do see the need and also a good sense, a European sense and spirit to find allies, to find common red lines, to find common position when it comes to topics like the migration, which are lying on the table since, in this form, since a few weeks, but in general, since a long time, as well as the topic of terrorist attacks. And I do hope that now it is the right time to find in a in-depth discussion solutions. Slovakia, the Czech Republic and Austria will try to find more allies. We will try to go shoulder on shoulder to find these common positions. And I would like to stop here and to hand over, if he is here, to our colleague in the Czech Republic. Tomáš, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Karoline. I hope that you can hear me and see me. First of all, I would like to express our thanks to our Austrian colleagues, especially to Karoline, for organizing this meeting today. Even though we cannot meet in person, it is important that we continue our dialogue, at least over the video conferences. We have seen that during the crisis, coordination and communication among the neighbors is very important, and it only proved that it is a way forward to improve our capacity to face not only current but also future crises and threats. Let me briefly comment on our already well-established coordination on COVID-19 response. I'm glad that our capacity to react as a neighbors is well tested. We have managed through our communication to reduce the impact of the measures our countries need to introduce on people that work across the borders, on people who live along the borders, that we have learned to cease to see in practice, but the COVID remembered us that they are still there. I would like to inform that the Czech government will today discuss about the possibility of extending the exemptions for test-free visits to Czechia from 12 to 24 hours. We hope that this will make the life of citizens on both sides easier. At the same time, we are continuously working on supporting commuters who work in our neighboring countries. Last but not least, I would like to support what my colleague Karoline has already said, that we strongly advocate for better coordination at the EU level, on coordination that facilitate free movement of people, even under these difficult circumstances. We call for better coordination in terms of quarantine strategies, but also in terms of testing strategies and mutual recognition of tests from one member state in other member states. We have already also discussed about possibility of recognizing not only the PCR tests, but faster antigen tests for the purpose of traveling, which would make it much easier for EU citizens to travel within the European Union. Briefly on terrorism, I am convinced that this is a threat that affects all of us. It is a European problem. Terrorism remains one of the most significant threats to EU citizens, even though we have been focusing on solving the COVID-19 crisis over the last year. We shouldn't forget that this is a serious threat to all of us, and we need tangible results of our European cooperation. We need to work together on anti-radicalization, on preventing dissemination of terrorist content online, on preventing hate speech, but also on improvement of the protection of Schengen and the cooperation of our security forces, especially in area of gathering and exchange of information. On issue of financial stimulus, I would like to express our full support to fast adoption of new multi-annual financial framework and next generation EU instrument. It is very important that we start implementing both very soon in order to stimulate our economies and to mitigate social impacts of this crisis. We hope that we will avoid further delays in the beginning of implementation of these robust assistance to our economies. Last but not least, I would like to also stress that we very briefly discussed about Western Balkan countries' integration to the European Union. We are now in a crucial moment, and our countries fully support that the EU meets also its commitment towards the countries in the region, and we will not miss the opportunity to speed up the reforms and at the same time to speed up the process according to the new methodology. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tomáš, and greetings to Prague next time in Vienna in a physical way, we do hope. And now I would like to hand over to Ivan Korčok in Bratislava. Ivan, the floor is yours.
Ja, vielen Dank und liebe Grüße an alle aus Bratislava, die uns zugeschaltet sind. I wanted to thank as well Karoline Edtstadler, our dear colleague, minister from Austria, for basically initiating this meeting. But I wanted to say it's a constant exchange and consultation that has been underway amongst the countries of Slavkov, Austerlitz, since the crisis started. It's a need, it's a necessity, it's not a political exercise. It's really something that has really proven very valuable platform for all of us. We've discussed at length very important or several important issues. Number one, COVID. Basically, I remember 2 weeks ago we have had a good discussion with Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg, but since then a lot of things happen in all our countries. The situation is fluctuating. It's not unfortunately stable, and therefore Slovakia, Austria, and Czech Republic, we are adopting measures which are not nice measures. Let me put it very bluntly: they're not nice for our citizens because they limit what we were used to, namely to live freely, and this is extremely difficult. In Slovakia, for the viewers in neighboring countries, as of today, we are changing the border regime, basically meaning that I wanted to say we are not closing the borders, but everybody who would like to enter Slovakia needs to have a PCR test not older than 72 hours. Or you can enter Slovakia without that test, but then you have to go into home quarantine for at least 5 days, and after those 5 days you have to be tested by PCR. Two, thanks to the nationwide and massive testing that Slovakia was carrying out 3 weeks ago, we were able to really minimalistically ease the lockdown, partial lockdown that has been in place in Slovakia for 3 weeks. We are reopening partly churches, cinemas, and theater, of course, under very strict conditions, which brings me to once again thanking Austrian authorities for helping us out 3 weeks ago with the testing. And two, I wanted to say that we are sharing our experience, including during the meeting or the video conference that took place today between Bundeskanzler Kurz and our Prime Minister Igor Matovic. Of course, we take into account or are noticing the intentions of Austria to also look at our experience with the nationwide testing. As Tomáš has mentioned, and Karoline, we have discussed the MFF, Multi-Annual Financial Framework, and Next Generation EU stimulus for our economy. I'm using this opportunity to call on all member states around the table, really all member states, to approach the final stretch that is ahead of us in order to achieve a deal over this important file, namely financial perspective and next generation, which I'm certain we desperately need at this moment, because people are now under pressure of all limitations, but we need to do our utmost to help our economies recover. We must not postpone the implementation, and for that we need to have an agreement. The sooner the better. I have given a clear instruction to Slovak ambassador, because the Coreper will deal with that today. We are fine with the compromise that was reached by the German presidency. And two, I want to appreciate the European Parliament's position. They went an extra mile because everybody knows that this is critically important. Last but not least, terrorism. We all were shocked when we saw these horrible pictures of the innocent people being killed, both in Paris and recently in Vienna. That is something that matters a lot, not only for Austrians and French citizens, but all of us in Europe. I dare say at this moment, it's a momentum, unfortunately very costly when it comes to lives that were lost, but it's a momentum where we have to deliver, because the idea of creating, so to say, or ensuring more cooperation among security services and intelligence services has been on the table for too long. When I look at where we are in terms of European internal security, I dare say that we are lagging behind compared to what kind of cooperation we managed to establish in other areas. We have monetary union, we have energy union, we have digital union, we have internal market, we have several unions, but what we need most, and our people expect that from us, is a security union. Therefore, I wanted, and I will stop by that, I wanted to support the Austrian effort together with France to mobilize once again politically all member states to come to a comprehensive concept where people can trust their authorities that they will protect them. Otherwise, people will not trust the European Union that it is able not only to deliver when it comes to economy, but the basic precondition is security. Without security, everything is nothing. And this is extremely urgent, even in times of COVID. Dear Karoline and Tomáš, I wanted to thank you for a very useful exchange that we've had today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you, Tomáš.
Vielen Dank. Ja, wir dürfen jetzt zu den Fragen kommen. Ich darf Sie bitten, diese auf Englisch zu stellen.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Demtischen from the Austrian Press Agency. You mentioned the mass screenings in Slovakia, Minister Korčok, can you tell us your experience with the screenings? Was this successful? And Minister Petříček, are these mass screenings also interesting for the Czech Republic?
Well, thank you for that question. I can tell you it is extremely demanding and challenging process, both logistically but also politically. And by politically, I mean the challenge to convince people to undergo that testing. So we have managed to convince the vast majority of those who were supposed to participate. It's basically people in the range of age between 10 and 65. Those were encouraged to participate, and Slovakia has 5.5 million inhabitants, and in the first round 3.6 million participated, which is a very, I think, bold number. I can tell you it paid off when it comes to the main objective of this testing, namely to identify those who didn't have syndromes of COVID. So basically, they didn't know that they are infectious. And we managed to identify in 2 rounds 50,000 people who were positive, but they didn't know that they were positive. If you multiply that, with their families, it's 200 people that went into self-isolation, and by that we basically managed to prevent the virus from spreading and increasing again. So we see it already on the curve, which is curving and going a bit flat, and we hope we can on the basis of this experience be able to maintain some or prevent rather number of those who are infected from increasing. So once again, difficult operation, both politically in terms of raising awareness. What's the objective of it? I can tell you that the most difficult part comes afterward, because it is not easy to explain to people. You have to go and test yourself. Of course, it is not mandatory. But then people expect certain easing. But we know we can only overcome and stabilize the situation if we combine it with basically permanent testing, which we want to establish, and partial lockdown, which is still underway in Slovakia. And we will be very careful in easing the limitations that we had to impose on our people. But once again, thank to Austria for helping us out with your medical experts in uniforms. They were excellent. I met with them, fantastic people. Thank you, Austria.
Tomáš, I think the second question was addressed to you. Did we lost him? No?
Yes, Karoline, thank you. We have also discussed possibility of nationwide testing with the use of rapid antigen test, as Slovakia performed over the past month. At the end, we, after discussing with our experts, decided to go for more targeted, however still extensive testing, especially of most vulnerable groups, especially, for example, people in social care system, in order to prevent rapid spread of the disease in pension houses, in social care institutions, and to prevent unnecessary impact of the COVID-19 on this group. So to summarize, we have decided for extensive testing, but of most vulnerable groups, to protect them in this pandemic situation.
Ivo Meinsen from Neue Zürcher Zeitung. My question is also to Minister Korčok. The results are quite impressive. The numbers of new infections have gone down quite significantly in the last 2 weeks. At the same time, it is also striking that the number of PCR tests conducted in Slovakia have gone down significantly. What connection do you see between those two, and is the reduced number of PCR tests also a result of a lack of resources because you had to use those for the testing, for the mass testing? And to Minister Edtstadler, I would like to ask, can you tell us a little bit more about this question that Mr. Petříček just addressed between targeted testings and a kind of mass testing of the whole population as was done in Slovakia, and sort of the advantages and perhaps costs of both approaches? Thank you.
Ivan, maybe you want to...
Well, thank you to the colleague from Neue Zürcher Zeitung. Well, I have to tell you that I'm not aware of PCR tests having gone or have been going down. You have to be careful when you read the number of tested people, because of course the number is much lower over weekends. But during the week we have been constantly going up, or at least maintaining the same level of PCR testing over the last weeks, irrespective of the fact that we have tested with antigen tests. Two, for example, we are establishing step by step a mobile testing facilities which will be available in all districts, where people will be allowed to be tested for free in Slovakia. So anybody who basically feels a need to be tested in Slovakia can go to this mobile facility established in each and every district. So definitely the number of PCR tests was not going down, except for the weekend days, Saturday and Sunday, where of course there is, I think, roughly 1/4 of normal number of those who are tested with PCR. That's and of course we continue to attach great importance to PCR tests. It's for different groups. I'm not epidemiologist. I don't want to go into details, but of course the antigen tests, it's a question of accessibility, it's a question of costs, but we have made available basically storage of antigen tests which remain available. Thank you.
Well, regarding the question which was addressed to me, I would like to start by saying that it is the sense of exchanges like we had today, that we exchange our experiences, that we can learn from each other. And so we did in the regard of the massive tests the Slovaks did. And it was also accompanied by some militaries from the Austrian side, which was important, I think, for Slovaks, but also for us, because we could learn from that. The Chancellor was quite clear. He said it should be an offer to the people, to the citizens, to get the chance to know if they are positive or not. Because the problem, and that was already mentioned, I guess, by Ivan, but also by Tomáš, a lot of people do not know that they are positive, that they have the infection, but they can spread it. And we see it when we are looking to the situation in hospitals, in the ICU capacities, also in Austria, we are getting to the limits. And we want to avoid a situation where we see a health system, a very strong health system like the Austrian, collapsing. And that's why we try to do our utmost to avoid such a situation. So once again, the Chancellor was clear. We want to have these massive tests. We want to get people to have the chance to get tested. On the other side, it's not something where you can substitute the tests for people who show symptoms. Of course, you have to uphold this situation too, to have the possibility for people who have symptoms to get tested. But we know that Christmas is coming very quickly. We want to offer people a life that is close to something like we would say normality, and therefore we see a big chance in having these tests for them so that they know that they are not bringing their relevance, maybe relevance of groups which are in a big risk in problems. So on a voluntary basis, massive tests and also these target tests, and it should be seen as an offer.
Vielen Dank. Gibt es weitere Fragen?
If there are no further questions, please allow me to conclude this press point with my colleagues from the Czech Republic and Slovakia by again thanking you very much for this fruitful, helpful exchange, for your friendship, and I really do hope that we could very soon see each other in person. We will catch up with a meeting in Vienna. That's a promise from my side. All the best from Vienna, and please stay healthy.
Bye-bye. And thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.